When two man-children become stepbrothers and are forced to live together, the results are equal parts ridiculous and ridiculous-er. That sounded better in my head. So we open with a quote from George W. Bush. Families is where our nation finds hope, where wings take dream. I seriously don't understand what it means for wings to take dream. Well, let's focus on the movie, I guess. It's another typical morning in the land of the grown-up man-children. Brennan is cooking breakfast and performing the all-important sniff test on his stinky clothes, while Dale is shredding on a virtual guitar in his bedroom. But things get weird when Brennan's wife, whoops, it's actually his mom, announces she's taking a day trip, and Dale's dad announces that he's headed to a conference and left $20 for pizza money. Meanwhile, Robert is giving a presentation at a conference where Nancy, Brennan's mom, is in attendance. She's giving him some serious sussy eyes, and he's melting faster than a popsicle on the 4th of July. Will their love withstand the test of time and their embarrassing adult children? Only time will tell. Robert and Nancy are really heating things up in the conference room, getting to know each other intimately. It's like corporate Tinder on steroids, folks. And as if their love couldn't get any deeper, they discover they both have 39 and 40-year-old sons still living at home. Relatable. I'm the son. Talk about a match made in heaven. But not everyone is thrilled about the lovebirds' union. Dale and Brennan throw a fit and storm out of the wedding. Also, Brennan has a younger brother who is too busy catching fish to attend. What a guy. And in the aftermath of the nuptials, Nancy is seen driving her overgrown baby, aka Brennan, who stubbornly refuses to call Robert dad. But hey, Nancy never even asked him to do that, so who cares? On the other hand, Dale is telling his dad that Nancy and her son don't have to move in with them, married or not. But that's not even a topic for conversation, because Nancy and Brennan have already arrived, and they're not just moving in, they're moving in right now. It's like a scene straight out of a horror movie, but with less gore and more awkward introductions. Not sure what's worse. Robert's neighbor and his dog say hi, and the new couple go inside the house. Brennan now comes out of the car and says hi to Dale. They do their introductions, and now we see the new family having dinner together. Dale and Brennan are causing absolute chaos there. You can see their parents struggling to keep the peace, and they're doing a pretty good job considering they're dealing with two wild boys who are into kung fu and fantasy baseball. Brennan claims that people call him the songbird of his generation, but his mom has only ever heard him sing twice. Maybe he's just saving his vocal cords for when it really counts. Dale is being a little confrontational and nearly even drives Brennan to tears. It doesn't help at all when he finds out that he'll have to share a room with Dale. Maybe they can bond over their love of kung fu and fantasy baseball, or just avoid each other as much as possible. Dale is now ready for bed. He stands up, kisses Nancy on the head, and tells her good night. But while Dale seems a lot freer with Nancy, Brennan is still awkward around Robert, and you can see that in how he says goodnight to him. It's like he's trying to be formal and polite, but also trying not to make too much eye contact. It's a delicate balance. Anyway, Dale is now showing Brennan around the house. He takes him to a room, shows him his drum set, and tells him never to touch them. After that, they head to his room. It's like a tour of the weirdest museum ever, where the exhibits are just a bunch of random objects that Dale doesn't want anyone to touch. Meanwhile, the parents have now settled in bed and are talking about their sons. Nancy asks Robert why Dale never left, and he says his son just coasted off his achievements his entire life. He left college in his junior year because he wanted to join the family business. But wait for it, Robert is a doctor. According to Dale, it's all about who you know. Oh brother, I guess it's like the old saying goes. It's not what you know, it's who you know, and also what your dad does for a living. My real dad is the milkman. Brennan's story is a little sadder though. His younger brother Derek set him up for failure in a talent show back when he was 17. Derek got his football teammates to replace Brennan's backup choir, and they started singing Brennan Has a Mangina. The students and even parents in the audience joined in, and Brennan was so embarrassed that he never sang again. To make matters worse, Derek went on to win that contest. Later, Dale and Brennan had a little spat before bed, but that was just the beginning. They had a full-blown montage of petty revenge. First, Brennan pushed Dale off a ship while they were sailing, and in return, Dale wrote, "I love Crystal" on Brennan's shirt. Then, Brennan drew a scar on Dale's face while he was sleeping, but somehow Dale managed to walk around with it all day. Maybe he doesn't shower in the morning. I know I don't. Or at night either. But Brennan wasn't done yet. He snuck into Dale's sacred drum room and started wreaking havoc on his beloved drum set. Dale knew something was up when he returned and confronted Brennan, who denied everything and even got angry at the accusation. To really rub it in, he went upstairs to put his family jewels on the drums. He took rubbing it in literally. Of course, naturally, this led to a full-blown house-destroying, neighbor-dog involving fight. It was all in good fun though, right? The epic battle raged on for what seemed like an eternity, much to the delight of the nosy neighbors. Things got so out of hand that Nancy had to leave her job to come break it up. But as soon as she arrived on the scene, the dog attacked her. Robert, who was on call at the hospital, raced home to try and put an end to the chaos, only to find his son and stepson bashing each other's brains in with golf clubs and baseball bats. But somehow, the violence brought them closer together, because when their parents walked in, they were sitting on the couch with ice packs on their heads, watching TV like nothing had happened. Robert scolded the boys and told them to go get jobs, then took away their TV privileges for a week. That night, the stepbrothers started sleepwalking and causing all sorts of havoc around the house. Even in their unconscious state, these boys were a handful. Their parents parents wake up to the pandemonium, and they can tell it's their mischievous sons. Nancy starts bawling, but Robert calms her down and says they'll be gone in a month. She later goes upstairs to wake them up. She tells Brennan his little bro is coming today. We now see Derek and his seemingly perfect family driving to the house in their fancy Range Rover, doing some a cappella in the car. The a cappella actually sounds decent, but Derek is still an absolute jerk. He's really being a massive ass to his wife, and you can see she's had enough. I already can't wait for this dude to get his comeuppance, and he almost does right now, but he manages to sort it out of the way of this oncoming vehicle at just the right time. Real shame. They get home safe and the whole family's having lunch together. Derek is going on and on telling stories about himself, like every self-absorbed jerk you know, and Robert is absolutely lapping them up. You can see from his eyes that he wishes Derek was his son. This man is grinning like an idiot. In fact, he's blushing like a little nerdy boy who just got a hug from his crush. Even his wife says he has never heard that laugh before. While all that chaos was happening below, Brennan decided to hide out in the treehouse like a wise and savvy squirrel. Dale decided to join him up there, probably hoping to avoid any drama. Meanwhile, Robert was still basking in Derek's presence, and Derek let him know that he could help sell his house for an exorbitant price. Robert was thrilled, and probably started falling in love with Derek right then and there. Unfortunately, Nancy wasn't too keen on the idea of selling the house, but Robert didn't care, because he was too busy swooning over the love of his life. Sorry Nancy, but it looks like you're out of luck. Eventually, Derek made his way up to the treehouse, and started boasting about how he made over $500,000 last year, is the VIP of a big helicopter leasing company, and has a set of rock-hard abs. In fact, he hasn't had a carbohydrate since 2004. Based. But let's be real, who cares about any of that when you're in a treehouse with your besties? Brendan is practically begging Derek to leave, and asks him why he even bothered showing up. Derek admits that he promised their mother he would offer Brendan a job, to which Brendan quickly responds with a resounding, "No way in hell am I working for you." Derek can see the hatred in Brendan and Dale's eyes, and decides to tease them about it, saying that it looks like they want to punch him in the face. Well, Dale takes that as a challenge and decks Derek, sending him tumbling down the ladder. Derek is of course not happy about being punched in the face, but there's one person who is thrilled about it, his wife, Alice. As Derek and his kids head to the car, Alice grabs Dale and gives him a big old donkey kiss. That's not really a thing, I just imagine this is probably how donkeys kiss. She then tells him how much she hates her life and loves him before running off. All in all, a very strange and amusing encounter. It's not every day that a punch leads to a beautiful friendship, but that's exactly what happened to Dale and Brennan. One minute they were strangers, and the next they were showing each other their prized possessions, an autographed samurai sword and industrial strength night vision goggles. Who would have thought they had so much in common? They bonded over their love of peeing and measuring their pipes, because what are best friends for, right? All guys do this, right? Nancy was happy to see the boys getting along, but Robert had a bad feeling about it. Little did he know, their friendship would soon be put to the test when they decided to build bunk beds. But these guys were no carpenters, and before you could say timber, the beds collapsed, and Brennan was left sandwiched between the death trap. Fortunately, he was only left with a little cut. The next morning, job interviews are up. Finally, the boys strut into their first interview dripped out. They decide they'll be interviewing as a team. Yeah, good luck with that. Despite their best efforts, no one wants to hire these buffoons. That is, until Seth Rogen comes along. I mean, who else would take a chance on these jokers? But just when it looks like they finally landed a gig, Dale lets out a fart so heinous that it makes Seth change his mind on the spot. Apparently, the fart was so potent that Seth could literally taste it. Gross. After a series of rejections, the boys decide to take a different approach. Brendan claims to be a world-class singer, while Dale boasts about his drumming skills and marketing prowess. Their grand plan? To start their own entertainment company, dubbed Prestige Worldwide. I'm sure it'll be a huge success, or a complete disaster. Either way, I'm here for it. And they want to go home and start right away, but Dale asks that they follow the long way home, because he's scared of a bully on this route. I promise you, you won't be able to guess what this bully looks like. It's literally just a 12-year-old boy and his friends. Brendan tries to act tough, but the kids totally dominate them and make them lick dog poop. They make it home, bawling their eyes out to Nancy. Meanwhile, Robert has made plans with the love of his life to sell the house and sail around the world on his boat, but not before Derek can rub it in his brother and stepbrother's faces one last time before he leaves. After Derek's departure, Robert drops the bomb that they're putting the house on the market, and he and his wife will be setting sail on his trusty vessel. Talk about rough seas for these poor guys. I'm sorry. They tell the boys that they'll put enough money in their accounts for a security deposit on a new apartment, and they'll also pay for therapy. You can tell that Nancy is saying this under duress, but she has to stick with it. The boys are now frantically trying to come up with a solution in the room, and surprise, surprise, the only solution they can come up with is to get Prestige Worldwide up and running ASAP. To kick things off, Dale has Brendan sing to see how talented he is, before placing a bet on him. Brendan belts out a tune, and Dale is absolutely floored. He tells him he has the voice of an angel, and announces that they'll be making a music video, but they have bigger fish to fry at the moment, like stopping Derek from successfully selling the house. So when Derek shows up with potential clients the next day, the boys decide to dress up as Germans and ghost neighbors to scare them off. It's the most ridiculous and hilarious plan they've ever come up with, and of course, it works like a charm. The clients are so freaked out that they don't even want to go inside the house. Next, we see Dale just straight up lying to the therapist he was forced to see. He's narrating the storyline of Good Will Hunting as if it was his own life story. Nice try. Brendan, on the other hand, is professing his love for his therapist. The next day, the boys try to scare off potential clients by pulling a new prank. This time, Brennan plays dead, and Dale blames it on asbestos. They should really consider a career in Hollywood. Oh wait, at Derek's birthday dinner, things get even more outrageous. Dale takes a bathroom break, and Alice falls him in for a quick clap. It's so disturbing, it should come with a warning label. Then, Alice uses the urinal in a way that defies all laws of physics and biology. This woman is a human disaster zone. Back at the dinner table, Robert stands up and basically worships Derek. I mean, he says he's so moved anytime he's with Nancy, and he remembers that that's where Derek came from, if you know what I mean. He also says Derek will be in his heart forever, and in his will too. Like I said, Derek is the true love of his life. Dale and Brennan now take over the dinner and start giving a presentation on prestige worldwide, which is quickly followed by their first music video, which they shot on Robert's boat. The boat which, by the way, they all watch crash at the end of the video. Now the ride home is a very long and quiet one. Well, quiet until Brennan asks what they think about their video. Nancy says apart from the wreckage they caused to the ship, she thought they showed inventiveness. Robert can't believe his ears. The boys just ruined his dream of sailing around the world and cost him $80,000 in the process, and she's talking about their inventiveness. Upon arriving home, Robert gives Brennan the spanking of a lifetime. No, seriously, he spanks him like a naughty toddler who snuck a cookie before dinner. Fast forward to Christmas, and it's clear that Robert has reached his breaking point with the boys. He's so fed up he abandons his family to go drown his sorrows at the Cheesecake Factory on Christmas Eve. Nancy is devastated, but Robert doesn't seem to care. He returns home reeking of scotch and cheesecake, but he's happier than he's been in months because he finally got some peace and quiet. Also, the cheesecake was really hidden. He announces that he may never forgive the boys for ruining his boat, and Nancy tries to dunk some sense into him and plead for their forgiveness. As he's complaining about them, they sleepwalk into the room and go out again, and then they start bringing in the gifts from under the Christmas tree, and even the tree itself. Robert then wakes them up, despite protests from Nancy, and the boys proceed to carry him and throw him down the stairs. On the big day, the family gathers for their annual feast, and Derek, as usual, dominates the conversation with stories about his own greatness. He doesn't even notice when his wife sends some suggestive looks and food-based requests in the direction of Dale. The two of them rush off to the bedroom. Things get so rowdy that they keep interrupting the meal. They even pop back into the dining room a few times, but everyone is so convinced that Dale is too much of a loser to score a girl that they refuse to believe their own eyes and ears, and probably noses. So Christmas ended on a real sour note when Robert and Nancy announced they were splitting up. Brennan and Dale were bawling their eyes out and blaming themselves, but Nancy was like, nope, don't do that. It's not your fault. Meanwhile, Robert was all like, it's definitely your fault. And Derek was like, yep, I agree. Brennan and Dale were now wailing and screaming, and Alice joined in. Dale even puked, just for fun, and Derek took a picture of it. Then Robert and Nancy moved out, and Brennan and Dale were left in the house for one night before they moved too. And what did they do? They called each other out on their BS and got into another fight. Of course, it was over the sacred drum set, but this was not really a fight, to be honest. It was just a silly drumming session gone awry. Brennan was jamming out on the drums when Dale, in a fit of musical jealousy, whacked him over the head with a cymbal. Brennan went down like a ton of bricks, and Dale, in a panic, thought he'd killed him. So, being the responsible stepbrother he is, he wrapped Brennan up and dragged him out to the backyard to bury him. But little did he know, Brennan was just faking it the whole time, just like my girlfriend, if I had one. Anyway, as Dale was shoveling the dirt over him, Brennan sat up and smacked him with the shovel before burying him instead. But Dale, like a superhero, burst out of his shallow grave and tackled Brennan to the ground. And then get this, they both fell asleep right there in the backyard. They woke up the next morning to find the neighbor's dog snuggled up next to them, and instead of apologizing, they just blamed each other for ruining their lives. And thus marks the end of an epic bromance. Brennan and Derek go on a wild job hunt, determined to turn their lives around, and finally take therapy seriously. Desperate for a chance, Brennan musters up the courage to beg Derek for a job. Derek reluctantly agrees, but not before warning his colleagues that Brennan probably won't last more than a couple weeks. But oh how they were wrong. Before they knew it, Brennan was practically begging for more responsibilities, and even requesting to plant the annual Catalina wine mixer. Derek can't resist the opportunity to see Brennan fail, so he agrees, thinking it's a win-win for him. If Brennan messes up, he gets to fire him. If he succeeds, Derek looks like a genius in front of the board. And let's just say, Brennan really pulled it off. He even hired Dale's catering company, and managed to bring the entire family back together at the event. Robert and Nancy are even hitting it off again, and everything seems to be going swimmingly. Who would have thought that therapy and a little wine could bring such joy and success? The boys are all grown up now, and their parents can't believe what they're seeing. Robert thinks Brennan planned this whole thing to bring them all back together, and Nancy is too emotional to even speak. But of course, things couldn't just go smoothly. The lead singer of the band performing gets into a fight with someone from the audience and ruins the party. Derek immediately fires Brennan on the spot. Dale is there with Brennan, and Robert joins them shortly after. He tells the boys that this is their chance to shine. They're musicians themselves, and there's an empty stage just waiting for them. They say they've given up on that dream, but Robert encourages them to reignite their prestige worldwide dream and show the world what they're made of. Brennan is shaking in his boots, but Dale is fearless. He hops on the stage and starts banging on the drums and belting out a tune. Unfortunately, the crowd is having none of it and starts booing him off stage. But things really get rowdy when Derek and his gang start singing a little ditty about Dale having a mangina. Smooth move, Mr. Vice President. But Brennan can't just sit back and watch his stepbrother get humiliated like that. He grabs the mic and gives a performance that leaves the entire room in awe. The fact that he even sings in a language nobody understands only adds to the music. The performance takes Robert and Nancy back to the day they met, and it's like they're falling in love all over again. Meanwhile, Alice is getting all hot and bothered for Dale again, naturally. Derek too remembers the good times he had with his brother back when they were kids, and he seems to be loving his brother again. It's a love fest because even Brennan's therapist is swooning over his dulcet tunes. Dale then goes absolutely bonkers on the drums, and everyone loses their minds. After the epic performance, Derek gives a strange apology, and the brothers awkwardly try to hug it out before settling on a high five. Brennan's therapist shows up and tries to act professional, but it's clear she's just a love-struck mess on the inside. Dale, on the other hand, dumps Alice, and she freaks out, so he has to hightail it out of there. Fast forward 6 months, and they're all having lunch at the house together. Derek is still being Derek, yapping away like a wind-up toy, but Robert has wised up and tells Derek to shut it for once. Instead, he asks Brennan and Dale how their karaoke venture is going. Oh, and don't act shocked to see Brennan's therapist at the family gathering. After lunch, Robert takes the guys outside to show them his surprise, the boat hanging from a tree. They go nuts over it. But is the movie really complete if Brennan and Dale don't dunk on their bullies? Of course not. They head back to the playground in a chopper and beat the shit out of the kids. They hold back the bully in chief and make him bend over dog shit. But they're kind-hearted Avengers, so they don't ask him to lick it. They just wanted him to learn a lesson. Finally, for the record, Dale asks Brennan if he touched his drum set that one time. Brennan stays true to his line from back then. He maintains his stance, so much so that Dale even apologizes. You gotta love a man who'll take a lie with him to the grave. Moral of the story? Prestige worldwide.